Though all the wealth of men was mine to squander, and towers of ivory rose beneath my feet, were palaces of pleasure mine to wander. The sum of it would leave me incomplete, though every soul would hold my name in honor, and truest love was always by my side. My praises sung by grateful sons and daughters. My soul will never still be satisfied. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could walk the world forever till my shoes were filled with blood. It's not enough. It's not enough. Though I could live for all to lift them higher, or spend the centuries seeking light within. The wide indulge my every dark desire, exhausting every avenue of sin. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could walk the world forever till my shoes were filled with blood. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could right all wrongs or ravage everything beneath the sun. It's not enough. It's not enough to make me whole. It's not enough. It never was. Awake my soul. It's not enough. It never was. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could walk the world forever till my shoes were filled with blood. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could right all wrongs or ravage everything beneath the sun. It's not enough. It's not enough. The world abandoned me till I could drink my fill of being alone. It's not enough. It's not
I think you guys know where I'm going now, right? It's not enough. There's this story of a man with all wisdom. He prayed to God for it, and he granted him it. And in his wisdom, this man was able to gain all power within his nation, more powerful than any other king before him. So powerful that at his command, he could ask something and it would be done. He lived this way for a while and figured out it wasn't enough. So then, with his wisdom, he found all the money he could ever find, all of the silver and all of the gold. And with all his power, he could ask someone to do something and they would immediately get it for him, because not only did he have the power, he had the finances. And he lived this way for a while. And he lived there, and he just discovered it wasn't enough. There was still a void. So then he took to pleasures like laughter and gestures and food and wine and drunkenness. For a period of time, he found happiness, but again, it wasn't enough. He had all the power, he had all the money, and then he had all the fun, and it still wasn't enough. And so then he went to his earthly pleasures. This man had more women than there were days in a year. It wasn't enough. He had all the women, all the fun, all the money, all the power. It wasn't enough. So then he started to work. He saw that his slaves would work. He saw that his people would work. And so he said, I'm going to work. And he started to work and dug with his hands and planted in the soil, and then would wait and watch as his hard work would then grow forth the crop. And he found peace in that. He found pleasure in that his hard work brought forth something from the soil, but again, it still wasn't enough. So he worked hard. He had all the physical pleasures he could ever want. He had all the fun he wanted. He had all the money he wanted. He had all of the power that he wanted, and it still wasn't enough. If you don't know who I'm talking about King Solomon. So today, open up with me to Ecclesiastes chapter 2. That's where we're going to be for most of the morning. Let me pray. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for being enough. We already know the answers, and I just thank you for that. God, be with us this morning. Let us truly look into ourselves and ask, if it's not enough, then what is? Ecclesiastes chapter 2 starts here. This is the book written by Solomon about, say, 3,000 years ago. This book is really depressing, honestly. It's about the pointless cycle of life, about how life is meaningless without its true desire. And if you read through the end, you figure out what that is. And I think most of us here this morning can already know. But we're going to read starting at chapter 2, verse 1. I said to myself, it's going to be on the screens there for those who don't have Bibles. I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure. Let's look for the good things in life. But I found that this too was meaningless. So I said, laughter is silly. What good does it do to seek pleasure? After much thought, I decided to cheer myself up with wine. And while still seeking wisdom, I clutched at this foolishness. In this way, I tried to experience the only happiness that most people find in this brief life. I also tried to find meaning by building huge homes for myself and planting beautiful vineyards. I made gardens and parks, and I filled them with all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to collect water, to irrigate my many flourishing groves. I bought slaves, both men and women, and others were born into my household. I also owned large herds of flocks, more so than any other king who had lived in Jerusalem before me. I collected great sums of gold and silver and the treasure of many kings and provinces. I hired wonderful singers, both men and women. I had many beautiful concubines. I had everything a man could desire. So I became greater than all who lived in Jerusalem before me, and my wisdom never failed me. Anything that I wanted, I would just take. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found pleasure in hard work, rewarding myself for all of my labors. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. It's a little depressing. But it's true. And you look at these things, Solomon, this man that was so many years ago before us, had literally everything he could ever desire. And now we live in America, And I'm not going to say that we're the richest people in the world, but guess most of you have a plastic thing in your wallets that you can literally get whatever you want right now. Go on to Amazon, 2-day free shipping. Phoenix now has 2-hour free shipping for those of you who are Amazon freaks like myself. But we live in a culture that we can literally get whatever we want. We have an unlimited source of debt that we can tap into. I'm 25, and like I said before, I'm not good with my money. Amazon gave me like a $10,000 limit on that credit card I got. That's crazy. That is crazy. But we look at this, and we read this through this, and it says that everything is meaningless. There is nothing that will provide a filling of the hole that is in our hearts. Some people say the God-shaped hole in our hearts. And so many of us already know the answer. What is enough? Well, Jesus is enough, right? That's the church answer. Our kids and our teens, they know that answer. You know that answer. But how is Jesus enough? I think back to the video that I opened with. I just want to read some of these verses. Dustin Kinser, I don't know if I say his last name right, but Dustin writes this song basically straight from Ecclesiastes. And the verses here are immensely powerful, not just to that song or 3,000 years ago, but to us today. It says that, "Through all the wealth of men was mine to squander, and towers of ivory rose beneath my feet. Where places of pleasure were mine to wander, the sum of all of that would still leave me incomplete. Though every soul could hold my name in honor, and truest love was always by my side, my praises sung by grateful sons and daughters, my soul would still never be satisfied, because it's not enough. I could walk this world forever until my shoes were filled with blood, and it still wouldn't be enough." He goes into it. "Though I could live to lift everyone else higher, or spend centuries seeking a light within, I could indulge my every dark desire, exhausting every avenue of sin. It's not enough. It's not enough. I could walk this world forever until my shoes would be filled with blood. It's not enough. It never was." I think about a friend of mine who, throughout junior high and high school and even into college, she saw herself as inadequate, not enough. The world had given her a view of what perfection and beauty was, and she wasn't that. So she strived for it. She worked out once or even twice a day. Some of us can't even get in the gym once. She then not only ate better, but then didn't eat at all for days at a time. She exhausted her body and went from like a normal 9th grader's 115 pounds to under 95. Tiny. You look at it and you just see unhealthy. But guess what? Our culture, beauty, fashion, models, whatever you want to say, has said that that is what beauty is, and that's what you should strive for. So she did for years. For years she strove to have this perfect figure that society said was desirable. She obtained it. Went into college and worked out in the mornings, did a whole long day of classes, then went and worked, barely eating in between, then went and worked out after, and maintained this outward view of beauty, but still found that it wasn't enough. It never was. It had been years, and it still wasn't enough. There's always one less calorie that you can have, or one more workout that you could do. Then life kind of threw a curveball, and her body fought back. She continued in this cycle, but continued to gain weight. So much so that a girl who was less than 95 pounds a few years later turned into a girl who was over 200. Radical change. And so if she didn't think that she was enough at 95 pounds, guess how she thought she felt over at 200? Totally inadequate, ugly, disgraceful. The world's view of beauty was totally gone and out of her grasp. And it wasn't until a few years ago that she was able to cling to what really mattered, to who really mattered, to Jesus. And I'm not going to say that this girl found Jesus and then she went back down to this normal weight. No, that's not how it works. This is life, guys. She worked hard to get to where she is now. She's beautiful, just the way she is. She's wonderful. This girl found what true worth was, what was enough. And it didn't matter what the world looked at or what they saw. It didn't matter what the scale read anymore. It didn't matter because she was enough. She was enough. So I ask you, what fills you up? We can all say the church answer now. Jesus fills me up. Good job. We'll put a sticker on your board. What fills you up? Be real with me right now. Is it your job? There's probably some workaholics in here, right? Some of you here that work 50 plus hours a week because you don't like to go home to what you have. Getting that money makes you feel like you're worth something when you can spend it later. Or maybe it's your family. I mean, I'm not opposed to loving your family. Some of you are awesome parents, and some of you are awesome kids. Some of you. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe it's your family. You love your family so much, and they're the ones who fill you up and give you hope. What if your kid disobeys you or disrespects you? Hey, you could, like Mackenzie said, you can give them a little smack. Get right back into place. Do they still fill you up when they break your heart? What about your love? Maybe you're dating somebody and everybody keeps asking you, when are you going to get married? Okay, hey, that's me. You guys stop it. Eventually, one day, don't worry about it. But you look to your husband or your wife. Do they fill you up? I mean, if they did, I don't think divorce rates would be 51%. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's your sin. Does your sin fill you up? The thing that I was told in college was, we wouldn't sin if it wasn't fun. I mean, truly. If sin wasn't something that was fun for us in the moment, we wouldn't do it. It makes no sense to sin, but it is. Tapping into that thing you're not supposed to see or doing that thing you're not supposed to do provides monetary joy or happiness. And so what fills you up? Ask that question deep down. I'm a Christian. Of course Jesus fills me up. How does Jesus fill you up? You know, for a long time, I called myself a Christian. And I said that Jesus filled me up, and yet I still wasn't happy. I still struggled with my sin. I still fought my earthly urges and desires. I still didn't find fulfillment in anything I was doing. But I knew who Jesus was. I believed. I was a Christian. I was a pastor's kid. And yeah, Jesus is enough. But I didn't understand what that meant. Turn with me to Hebrews chapter 13. The whole sermon that Will gave a few weeks ago about parallels between the Old Testament and New Testament really inspired me, and so I've really been studying a lot on this, and this is kind of a parallel I see here in between the Old Testament and the New Testament. So Hebrews chapter 13, starting at verse 8 says this. It's going to be on the screen again. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Amen? So don't be attracted to strange new ideas. Your strength comes from God's grace, not from rules about food which don't help you follow them, which don't help you for those who follow them. We have an altar from which the priests in the tabernacle have no right to eat. Under the old system, the high priest brought in the blood of the animals and to put into the holy place for a sacrifice for our sin. And the bodies of the animals were then placed outside and burned outside the camp. So also, Jesus suffered and died outside of the city gates to make his people holy by means of his own blood. So, let us go out to him outside of this camp and bear the disgrace that he bore. For this world is not our permanent home. We are looking forward to the home that is yet to come. Therefore, let us, through Jesus, a continual sacrifice of praise to God, proclaiming our allegiance to his name. And don't forget to do good and to share with those in need. These are the sacrifices that please God. So you're asking, why did I bring this verse up? So in biblical times, the Hebrews, the Jewish people, they spent their entire lives building their sacrifices up. Their job was to be shepherds, or to herd over flocks, or to watch over their fields where they would build large grain or fruits. And they would spend their entire life working for these things. And then when they sinned, they had to take everything that they just worked so hard for, the best of the best, the stuff that they wanted. They had to take it down or bring the animal, and then they had to sacrifice the animal to cleanse their sins. It was like a whole life things. Hebrew sacrifice meant a lifetime of doing this because sin happens all the time. So you're working and herding your best cattle, and you find the best sheep or the best calf that you know is just going to grow up to be so big and strong to provide for your family in the future. And then you mess up. So you got to take that best thing that you're so excited about and give it to God. And then they would take the blood and sacrifice it over the altar for you, and then they would burn it, discard it outside of the city. So this guy Jesus comes, and then he gets whipped and tortured and spat at, and then he dies on a cross. And then when he is resurrected, his blood that was poured out literally for you and for I took the place of that sacrifice. No longer did the Jews or the Gentiles have to raise this livestock to bring it in for their sins. No longer did the Jews have to pick the best fruits to give them for what they did wrong. And this was a culture shock. Pastor Will and I met and talked about this a lot this last week. Maybe just an hour, so not a lot, but it was a lot. And so, Jesus is the new sacrifice. And for these people, it blew their minds because they've spent their whole lives sacrificing items, things. And now they're told, don't worry about it anymore. Jesus came to take care of that for you. So that meant a lot for them. We have taken that for granted. When we are asked to sacrifice, we do not understand what that means at all. I don't. I'm being real with you. Because Jesus is my sacrifice. I know who Jesus is. Jesus is the person who is supposed to make me enough. And yet I don't understand what it means to sacrifice. Verse 15 says, therefore, let us offer through Jesus a continual sacrifice. If Jesus is the sacrifice, what is that supposed to mean? I look at that and I wonder, if Jesus is the sacrifice, why are you asking me to still sacrifice, God? The answer comes in the next verse where it says that, and don't forget to do good and to share with those in need. And then it says, these are the sacrifices that please God. So, number 2 makes sense to me. What does it say again? Sorry. And do share with those in need. That one makes sense. It's easy for me. If I see a need, I need to fill it. Okay, I can pull out my credit card and I can buy some groceries for somebody. Oh, that person needs me to push their car into the gas station. I can buy their gas. No big deal. I've got my credit limit. Let me run it up. No big deal. No big deal. I can keep doing it over and over. Oh, I'm sacrificing. It's really great. I'm helping those in need. But the first one gets me. Do good. What a relative term. I mean, seriously, do good. What does that even mean? I stopped for the pedestrian in the street. I did good today. I sacrificed for God today. How about this? A couple weeks ago, we had the whole stage that was set up, and the kids did VBS, and it was really cool. The kids raised $501. And then I asked you, can you match that or double it? Some of you scrounged through your purses or your wallets and found the coins or the dollar bills you had, and you put them in the offering. We did good. $1,300. Awesome. Great. Did any of you sacrificially give, or did you give in your excess? I think back to the story of the widow who only had the 2 copper coins. And she goes to the front of the church at the time and puts them in the offering bin, and walks out. And then you have these rich people. Let's just classify them as Americans for now. Come in, there's a brand new credit card swiper at the front of the church to give your tithes and offerings. Oh, here we go. Here's my black card from American Express. Cha-ching! There's $1,000 to the church. No big deal. How many of you give out of sacrifice? And how many of you give out of excess? I'm just going to be real with you. I've given a lot out of my excess. Every time that I've been asked to give something, it was out of my excess. It wasn't because it was hard for me to give. Oh, let me check my bank account. I got to pay rent. I got to do this. Oh, looks like I got $150 left over. I'm going to give 25. I mean, really, sit there and reflect. When was the last time you gave and it hurt? When was the last time that you gave and you weren't sure how the next week was going to look? Because that widow who gave the 2 copper coins, that was her last. So we get the whole, giving to those in need now being good. What does that mean, being good? Thanks, God. It's really generic. Will and I talked about this, and I think we came to a conclusion that it's not just about being good, but about loving better. And sometimes loving people is the hardest thing to do. I think back over the last 3 weeks. I'm on Facebook quite a bit. I don't post as often, but I lurk. I watch y'all. There's this cool thing that happened. Ken Ham made an ark. Awesome, we get to explore that. And then guess what he did? He put a rainbow on it. Woo! Take back the rainbow. How about instead of trying to take back the rainbow, you love the people who claim it's theirs? I struggle with that, guys. Because I don't care about all of that crap. Let's just be real. And yet the church is doing a really, really good job of making people think that we hate them. It is my rainbow, not yours. And yet we sit here and we say they're sinners and we don't care what they deal with. Think about this. You're a parent and your kid goes to touch the stove. Do you love your kid? You don't want him to touch the stove, right? And if they do, you don't shun them or kick them out of the house. You love them. You pull them close to you. You cover their hands in water. When your kid is on the top of the jungle gym and decides to jump off, that's dumb, right? Don't do it, Johnny. But when they do it, you don't look at them and say, shame on you, get out of here. You run to them and you love them. Now think about this. If they are gay people or trans people or any other sinners in this world, how are you going to respond to them? Are you going to run to them and love them because they deserve it? Or are you going to tell them that they need to leave because they're sinners? Because if that's how you're going to be, then you need to walk out that door too. I need to walk out that door too. I am a sinner, a dirty, rotten sinner. And yet you guys accept me and you guys love me. Right? I hope. But if someone were to walk through this door and be a little bit different, are you going to love that person like you love me? Or are you going to tell them to leave because they think the rainbow's theirs? I'm torn with this, guys. The church is doing a mighty fine job of making people think we hate them. And we've been on this for a while. Love harder, dig deeper, encourage more. It's easier to dig deeper. We go to church on Sundays. It's easier to encourage the people in these pews. It's easy to love the people in this building. How many of you are actually doing that at work? How many of you are actually doing that on Facebook? Because guess what? People see what you post. And I said this to the teens quite a bit, that there's this boat called Christianity that we all like to claim as ours. I don't want to be in that boat with people who hate people because they're different or because they sin one way. Amen. But then again, Jesus calls us to step out of the boat onto the water. And so I think maybe that's what we need to be doing anyways. It's stepping out and helping those who are drowning. Loving those who are sinning. showing them that this is a church who loves first and judges never. Guys, I struggle with this, I do. Because I have been the person who has shown more hate to people than ever. 2011 through 2013, I vehemently said that I was homophobe. And I said that I hated you because you were gay. And I'm not even going to go into whether it's biological or not. I know it's a sin. But instead of loving those people and giving them an opportunity to get to know this guy, Jesus, who died for me and them, I never once gave him that opportunity. I slapped him in the face and I told him they weren't worth it. I hated them. I was not a mere reflection of who God was. And I want to be so badly. And I hope that I am. But I want you guys to be that way too. I want you guys to walk out the door and reciprocate love. True love. The best way that we can describe that is a man who would take lashes upon lashes, ripping his skin off, bleeding, getting spat at, and then still choosing to die for those people. That is true love. And yet we won't even listen to someone who has a different opinion on us. We won't even give someone a moment who says that they sin differently than we do. But that's not what it's about. Love God, love people, love harder, dig deeper, and encourage more. God, thank you for today.